on behalf of me, Mayor-elect Mamdani, and myself, we are thrilled to announce our new criminal justice advisor to our transition team, my son, Lennon. He has worked with incredible individuals like Linda Sarsour and Louis Farrakhan, and we are thrilled to have him join our team. Incredible individuals like Linda Sarsour join our team. I know some of you have expressed concerns about his criminal history, but who better to run our criminal justice department than someone with real criminal experience? And as someone who served 7 years in prison for armed robbery, we believe that Mr. Lennon is overqualified. Yeah, you can clap, you can clap. And for those of you who are still not convinced, look at George Floyd, who robbed a pregnant woman at gunpoint. And he turned out to be a hero. So let us not be so quick to judge. Thank you for helping us turn New York City into Gotham City. Please help support our work at coverincome.com.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. Hope you all had a very exciting second day of Hanukkah, as we're now in the third day of Hanukkah. And there's 5 shopping days left till Christmas or something like that. So I hope you got your online shopping done, because I don't know you're gonna get any more deliveries. I don't know that's gonna happen. Yesterday, I should mention to you all on topic with that. So we had, I'll share with you really quickly before I get into tonight's topics, as people are settling in here. Sunday, my father had a pre-Hanukkah party, right? All of his offspring came in, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. All of us came in there to hang out at my dad's house Sunday afternoon. And he usually gets us gifts. Not big things, little memento type of things. We're not expecting any more than that. So he mentioned that he got these personalized mugs for each of us, that he wrote a message, and he really he's very into our sincere gift. To him is much more important than something elaborate. He puts a lot of effort into that. So we're all appreciative of it. And he said that they guaranteed delivery by December 25th. So he said he doesn't have them yet. He didn't have them yet. He felt very badly about that. He said, I don't have them yet, but I'm supposed to have them by December 25th. So I said, Dad, are you going to come around house to house on December 25th, dropping off our mugs? I don't know you see my dad, but he's I don't think he realized what I was saying. Some of my nephews laughed at the notion. My brother laughed. It was funny. Anyhow, so where we at? Yeah, okay. Tonight's show. First and foremost, I should share with y'all. I need to share with you all first and foremost that we do have a goal up tonight, which is, it's going to become probably my regular goal. If we hit our target market of 15 super chats of $10 or more, in that case, boom, I'm going to give you a third hour. I have so much content. I don't know why this week I'm just I'm ballooned with content to give you guys. And I'm just I don't know. I guess I'll cut off 2 hours in if I have to. But we can go 3 hours if we hit our goal, which is, again, 15 super chats and or Rumble rants. Don't forget, don't think you're not very important, you Rumble ghetto folk, that we hit 15 of those within this next 2 hours. Let's go for hour 3. But in those topics, what I do plan on covering tonight includes Susie Wiles. That's gonna be the big story. That's the one I'm gonna spend probably a lot of time on. A Vanity Fair article where Susie Wiles basically spills all from inside the White House. You may or may not realize this, but she's Trump's chief of staff, and supposedly she is pretty much the most influential person in his circle, at least according to the article. The article claims that she is the only one who holds any sway over his opinions, and that she has a great deal of influence on which direction he goes, which should probably terrify all of us. It should terrify you and me both. So, and she went to Vanity Fair and apparently was saying all sorts of things that were surprising a lot of people. We're going to go over what she said and some responses to things that were reported in the Vanity Fair article. Then we have Ilhan Jussie Smollett Omar going out and just blah, 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 making up stories about how ICE harassed her son, which were exposed as basically being like, I don't know, I guess, you know, when they harassed her son and they were screaming, "This is MAGA!" and how harassed her son was. Oh, because it's so hard being a dark colored person in this country. And we also have John Trump suing the BBC for $5 billion plus $5 billion plus $5 billion. A total of $10 billion that he's going after the BBC based on the distortions that they made in a report on January 6th, where they really took his speech and just to make it sound like he was saying something that he never said. So he's going after them for defamation and for unfair practices in the state of Florida. That's right. He knows where to bring his lawsuit. Yeah, he's going after them in the state of Florida to try and basically take that company down. And they might have some issues there. We're gonna have to take a look at that. And what else do we have going on? Updates potentially, assuming we get there. Updates in the Brown University shooting. And Judge Dugan. Oh my God. How can we forget Judge Dugan? How can anyone forget that? Updates there as well. There's probably a couple other stories I got kicking around here. A couple of other stories we got kicking around here. So that's all on the agenda for tonight. If you enjoy the content here, I appreciate it if you please like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Maybe if you're watching afterwards, drop a comment in the algorithm being like, wow, this guy has the right for this podcasting, whatever it is you want to say. Or you can say I stink. That's okay. It's all feeding the algorithm. Algorithm doesn't really read what you're saying. They're just like, oh, were there words there? Oh, okay. So if you can hit that like, subscribe, and or comment, I hope you'll stick with me for the next couple of hours as we sort through the news of the day. And the news of the day, I'm going to start with, I think it's appropriate we start with Ilhan Omar. Let's start with Ilhan Omar, because this woman was going out and about and she's talking about how rough her life is. Oh my gosh, so rough. Talking about what it's like being harassed on the daily by Donald Trump. And I'm not going to watch through her entire interview because, God, I have too much pity on. I like you too much. I do. But we'll watch a little clip. We'll watch little clips of it here. A little segment of it over here.
Used to say those kind of things, even though he does know what the truth is.
One of the things that the president keeps talking about, and others have talked about it here, is the degree of fraud in some Medicaid programs here in Minnesota, which obviously is taking away from.
Which is basically being done like 78 out of 81 of them are all Somalian.
People who really need the money. A disproportionate amount of the people who have been convicted so far are Somali. What do you say to that?
What do you say to that? What do you say to that, Ilhan? Now, trust me, I spared you the first, half of this interview, the first 4 minutes or so. So, yeah, this is a fluff piece, okay? This is very, very friendly fire. This is a question that Ilhan knew was coming, okay? We're trying to basically make it as if like, this is a setup. This is a setup of I'm going to ask you this, and this way you have an opportunity. I'm presenting you with an opportunity to get your narrative out. I cover this a lot whenever I'm showing Harry Anton how he's standing next to someone who's feeding him questions and it's all pre-orchestrated. This feels no less pre-orchestrated to me. No less pre-orchestrated. What do you say to that? I mean, like, come on, there is a disproportionate number of Somalia. What do you say to that?
And the fact that the entire community is getting blamed.
Yeah, I mean, here in the United States, we don't blame the crimes of an individual on a whole community.
It's not an individual. It's like a community of individuals. That's the problem. It's not an individual. It's a community of individuals. Yeah, this is not like 1, 3, 5, 20 people. Dozens and dozens of Somalians.
We are, as Minnesotans, also outraged the fact that our tax dollars were defrauded.
Oh, really? Oh, really? Well, why didn't you do something about it all them years? Why didn't you do something about it? You're outraged. Oh, so outraged.
And as somebody who deeply cares about these sort of social safety net programs, I'm deeply hurt that we had fellow Minnesotans who thought it was okay not only to take that money away from vulnerable people that needed it, but also jeopardize the future of these programs.
Right. One of the things the president is also targeting is
So basically it was blame the Somalians. That's what they did. That's what the Somalians did.
they want to do several investigations to see whether any of the money that Somalians send home, which they have for years, via money transfer businesses, if any of that has gone to a terror group called Al-Shabaab that has murdered many, many Somali citizens. The suggestion the president seems to make is that Somalis are hand in hand with Al-Shabaab. Do you want to clear that up? And what do you think about looking?
They don't have to be hand in hand. The money, when it gets transferred through, has to go through Al-Shabaab hands. It has to. That's the point. You don't have to. Please. If they either are or they aren't. If they are, then it's terrible. And if they aren't, then they're unwittingly or foolishly or ignoring the reality that it is going through Al-Shabaab.
To see if anything is getting to Al-Shabaab.
Yeah, I mean, Somalis here in Minnesota have been in the forefront of fighting against the terror that is Al-Shabaab.
Oh yeah, are they forefront? Are they on the front lines from Minnesota? Is that what they're doing? They're on the forefront? How are they on the forefront? How? What way? No, I'm not saying they should be on the forefront. I'm not saying that. I'm just simply saying calling them on the forefront is ludicrous. What the hell are you talking about? Is there something like in Somaliland, Minnesota, where there's like, and something in Detroit there, where all of a sudden there's Al-Shabaab, they're on the streets, they're on the forefront. How are they on the forefront? How much further from the forefront can you be when you're 4,000 miles away? I mean, how are you on the forefront? What does this mean? Oh, they're on the forefront. Oh, okay. Okay. They're on the forefront.
And the destruction that it has caused in Somalia. Many of us have family members that still live in Somalia. Many of us have friends and people that we grew up with. We are deeply worried every single time that there is a terrorist attack that somebody we know might have gotten hurt. And so if there is here and there to this accusation that some of the money might have gone to support Al-Shabaab, we do want our government to get to the bottom of that, because we also spend a lot of time and resources
stealing that money. We put a lot of work into stealing that money from the taxpayers.
As Americans fighting Al-Shabaab, our government is very much involved in helping the Somali government fight Al-Shabaab.
All right, and one of the things that's going on for years is that the banking industry really isn't set up in Somalia, and that these money service businesses are the way people give money. But I want to ask also about fearing something else, because I read that there was a raid on a restaurant and a young man was arrested, and it's a restaurant that your 20-year-old son frequents, and you got very concerned. Tell us about that.
Now let's get to the Jussie Smollett moment here.
The fear comes home for mothers.
Tell us, Jussie. Tell us all about the fear you have for your son when he's encountering ICE.
Whether they're members of Congress or not.
Yeah, I mean, it was last Friday. Typically my son goes to Friday prayers with his friends, and then they all go and eat at their favorite restaurant in Cedar Riverside. And I knew, I saw videos earlier in the day from Representative Mahmoud Noor and others that the ICE agents were in Cedar. And so I kept calling to see,
calling him.
Yes, calling my son to see if he was okay, if he had any run-ins with him, and he wasn't answering. And eventually that night I did get a chance to talk to him, and I had to remind him just how worried I am, because all of these areas that they're talking about are areas where he could possibly find himself in, and they are racially
and thereby
profiling. They are looking for
racially profiling
young men who look Somali that they think are undocumented. My son was born here, so was the young man that they harassed. And he did say, you know, they did come into the masjid.
They harassed. Okay.
While he was there praying. They didn't do anything.
They came into the mosque.
Yes, and they left. And then, yes, he did see them at the restaurant. They just walked around and kind of left. But yesterday, after he made...
So she says that he had to show his passport, and then they let him go.
A stop at a Target, he did get pulled over by ICE agents. And once he was able to produce his... passport ID, they did let him go.
So your son went to Target last night with his passport.
He always carries it with him
in case he gets
okay,
pulled over.
Yes,
which he did by ICE.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're glad that he's okay, and we're very glad to see.
So apparently her son gets pulled over by ICE all the time. This happens all the time. I'm sure he doesn't say to them, oh, by the way, my mom is Ilhan Omar. I'm sure he doesn't do that. So that's her claim. But doesn't seem like that actually happened. What? But wait, what's this? DHS says there's no evidence Ilhan Omar's son was pulled over and asked to provide proof of citizenship. With no evidence, it's shameful that Congressman Omar will level accusations to demonize ICE as part of a PR stunt. It's shameful, but in no way surprising. I guess they were screaming, "This is MAGA country. This is MAGA country." Department of Homeland Security. We're gonna find like pictures of her son with like a mock necktie noose around his neck that he sort of fashions for himself, and he calls the police saying, "This is what ICE did to me. It was horrible. They tried throwing bleach on me." The Department of Homeland Security shot down claims made by Representative Ilhan Omar that his son was stopped by Immigration and Customs Enforcement and asked to prove his citizenship, saying the agency has no record of such an encounter, and accusing the Minnesota Democrat of spreading false allegations. Now, this is the first time she's ever spread any sort of false allegations, so it's hard to believe. In a public statement, DHS said ICE, quote, has absolutely zero record of its officers or agents pulling over Congresswoman Omar's son. The agency said the accusation was made without evidence and called it shameful, arguing it was designed to demonize federal law enforcement. Well, that is certainly what her MO is. I mean, that's what she does. Is she demonizes anything associated with Donald Trump. With no evidence, it's shameful that Congresswoman Omar would level accusations to demonize ICE as part of a PR stunt, DHS said. Allegations, here's their little tweet from them. Allegations that ICE engages in racial profiling are disgusting, reckless, and categorically false. What makes someone a target for immigration enforcement is if they're illegally in the United States, not their skin color, race, or ethnicity. Under the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, DHS law enforcement uses reasonable suspicion to make arrests. Reasonable suspicion. So there you go. So she's basically full of hot garbage. Big surprise. Big surprise. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thought that Ilhan Omar would be like making up stuff about her son being pulled over? I'll tell you that this is the same thing. When they can't come up with examples, when the examples are too rare for them to come up with it, they always have to invent it. Or I guess this one is a matter of let me put myself in the center spotlight here. Is like, oh, I'm such a victim. I'm a victim of these racists who are coming after me all the time. It was terrible. It was awful. My poor son. I was calling him all night long. I was so worried for him because I knew ICE was in the area. I knew ICE was around. So I kept, obviously, as a concerned mother, I kept calling and I kept saying, oh, please, Please, Shefala, please tell me you're okay. I'm so worried for you. All those horrible, evil, racist ICE agents are roaming around, and one of them may come across you and have you and force you to actually make them show their passports. Please, please call me so I know you're safe. I know you survived your night out of prayer and harmless fun in a restaurant. Oh my God. Oh my God. Such a victim. She's such a victim. I'll tell you that all the other Democrats are jealous of what a victim she's able to make herself out to be. There's Ilhan Omar. There is Ilhan Omar. I should bring up here. I thought about bringing this up yesterday. Let's see if I have it here. I did have a related issue here. I'm talking about the fraud that was going on. That's such a huge concern for Ilhan Omar. We should spend a moment talking about that. Let's spend a moment talking about that. Here's, in fact, better than I can frame it, is Senator John Kennedy, who
feeding our future.
Wants to tell you about it. He wants to tell you about it. I think the clip should be enough. Well, you know what? Let's give you the full article here. Senator John Kennedy reads damning memo that explains why Minnesota Democrats kept the fraud quiet for so long. Oh, nothing concerns Ilhan Omar more than fraud in her own state. Nothing concerns her more. As the massive fraud scandal in Minnesota continues to unfold, people are wondering how it was allowed to happen. How did these people get away with such huge financial crimes? Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana might have an answer for that. I have a different answer than him. He has one answer. I have a different one. He recently read a part of a memo that came from the AG's office in Minnesota, and it makes the situation pretty clear. This is from Wall Street Apes on Twitter. Emphasis is ours. Senator John Kennedy reads an internal memo from the Minnesota Attorney General's office. They openly say they did not stop the Somali immigrant fraud because Democrats would lose votes. What? Here's what a fraud investigator in the AG's office said. She said there's a perception that, I'm quoting now, that forcefully tackling this issue would cause political backlash from the Somali community, which is a core voting bloc for Democrats. Oh.
Futures went to the state and said, if you stop giving us this money, we're going to call you racist and we're going to sue you. And you don't want to be in the news. Now, here's what, and you say, well, why didn't the employees do something? They did. They told the people higher up, the people with the flags in their office. And you know what they did? Nothing. You know why? Well, here's what the legislative auditor in Minnesota said. He said that the threat of litigation and the negative press affected how the state politicians use their regulatory power. And here's what a fraud investigator in the Attorney General's office said. She said, there is a perception that, I'm quoting now, that forcefully tackling this issue would cause political backlash from the Somali community, which is a core voting bloc for Democrats.
That's all that matters. How do we get reelected? All that matters is how do we get reelected? That's the only factor which is relevant. Frankly, that's his theory. I have a slightly different theory, and that is specifically, I think there are kickbacks. I think that there are kickbacks. Now, maybe the kickbacks are not in the form of cash prizes. Maybe it's not like the Price is Right, or okay, I don't want to date myself that much. What's that? Deal or No Deal? Maybe it's not quite like that. Maybe there's other types of kickbacks, other types of gifts that go, or maybe it is along those lines of promises that will deliver a certain number of ballots for you. I didn't say votes. I said ballots. We'll get you ballots. Maybe they're votes. Maybe they're just ballots. But we'll get you ballots filled out. Because we know that's what happens in Minnesota. We know that's what Minnesota. Yeah, she won. In the first half of that report, part that I spared you, they were talking about how she won by 50 points, Ilhan Omar, in her last election. Yeah, I'm sure that's what the ballots say. I'm sure that's what the ballots say, and who knows? Maybe she actually won. But like, I know that them ballots are hard to keep track of. It's so confusing. So when there's so many ballots, there's just so many ballots. How can anyone keep it all straight? Segan Rose says, "Thank you for all you do." You're very welcome. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it. Mary Coppola. Happy Hanukkah, Joe. Been a minute for me here. I missed your humor. Happy holidays to Jack. God bless you. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you. Maybe there is no evidence because no one documented anything because it was a kid who was a citizen and then sent him on his way, as they should. Dog bites man. That's possible, I guess. Maybe. You want to give Ilhan Omar the benefit of the doubt? Is that where you're going, Joe? Is that where you're going? I can't question this man. I can't question this man. Not this week. I can't question him. No. I played this guy in the Good Lawgic Fantasy Football League this week in the playoffs, and he put up like record number of points, 202 points. Just completely geschmetted me. So congratulations to you. Kudos to you, brother. Phenomenal job you did. Every move he did was like freaking gold. Even picking up like the best defense of the week. Everything. So if he says that if that's his speculation this week, I gotta tip my cap because who knows? He could be right, and he's more squarely on point this week than I am. That's for sure. All right. Moving on to our next story. I'm not going to go through the entire Trump lawsuit, but I do want to talk to you about this $1 billion lawsuit. I'm not going through the entire thing here. I'm going to I'll bring you an article from the Post and we'll just cover it. And I'll tell you, the BBC's swearing, we're going to fight this. We're going to be fighting this tooth and nail. We're coming after you. We're going to be fighting this. We're not going to take this line down. Of course you're going to fight it. Because you're going to fight it for now. When it comes defamation suit, you know that like, hey, you got a lot of leeway there. They have to show actual malice. Any lawyer would tell you to fight it, at least at this stage. I don't think you're going to get dismissed that quickly. But Trump slammed BBC with eye-watering $10 billion suit. Billion with a B for alleged defamatory editing of January 6th speech. President Trump lodging an eye-watering $10 billion lawsuit against BBC on Monday accused the British broadcaster of defaming him through a deceptive edit of his January 6, 2021 speech at the White House Ellipse. The lawsuit took aim at a 2024 documentary. It's really a mockumentary that they held out as a documentary. That's the problem. Which spliced different sections of Trump's comments before his supporters ransacked the Capitol to make it appear as though he explicitly encouraged the riot. Quote, "I'm suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth, literally," Trump grumbled to reporters earlier in the day Monday. "They actually put terrible words in my mouth having to do with January 6th that I did not say." Trump's legal team filed the 33-page lawsuit in federal court in Miami, which is a smart place for him to be filing it. And it makes sense for him to be filing it there, seeing as how he's, from Miami, he's from Florida. Blasting the BBC's documentary titled, quote, "Trump, a Second Chance," as a brazen attempt to interfere in and influence the 2024 election, which it was brazen and definitely an objective to interfere with it. It was definitely designed to sort of reawaken the passions of people saying, he's calling for an insurrection. The colossal lawsuit seeking $5 billion for defamation, specifically, and another $5 billion for violating Florida's Deceptive and Unfair Trade Practices Act, for a grand total of $10 billion. Last month, the BBC issued a formal apology, which was an interesting legal move on their part, issuing an apology, but insisted it did not defame Trump. Well, of course, they're going to insist that. They have to insist that at the time of their apology. Otherwise, they're basically begging for a defamation suit. BBC, so it's not surprising. They're not going to admit, yes, we're guilty of defaming you. BBC's Director General and News CEO both stepped down last month. BBC Chairman Samir Shah described the edit as an error of judgment. Whoops. How did that happen? How did that happen? I don't know. We didn't even know. We didn't even realize that they spliced together something he said 3 minutes in next to something he said 47 minutes in. Who knew? We couldn't tell. The controversial documentary featuring an edited clip of Trump telling rally goes, "We're going to walk down to the Capitol and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore." But that clip was an edit of 3 different sections of Trump's speech and cut out a nearly hour-long gap to make all that appear as one sentence. Among the portions left out was Trump's plea to fight peacefully. Specifically said that. The most important word that he's ever said in his life is this word right here. That word that he said there was very, very important. And he did say it. Additionally, the BBC documentary took footage of the Proud Boys en route to the Capitol before Trump's address and made it appear that they were inspired to march over after his remarks at the White House ellipse. Trump's team is seeking a jury trial. The BBC has countered that his documentary did not air in the U.S. and not on any of its streaming services. So we're not affecting the election. No one's able to see it in America. Yeah, as if it's not going to be picked up by like all these news agencies. Come on. Trump's team claims to have standing to sue because U.S. subscribers to BritBox, or Americans who use virtual private networks, might have seen it. So anyone who is using a VPN showing that they're, trying to pose as a lummy for reasons I can't imagine, but is that really offensive? Is that a slur? After the word came out of my mouth, I was like, I vaguely recall when I had British friends, which I once did have British friends. They took it as a real slur. Like it was almost as if like it's a filthy slur. And I was just like, really? The whole scurvy thing got you that bad? I think that's the origin of it. I don't know. Trump has fired off lawsuits against multiple media outlets over recent months, such as the Wall Street Journal, over its publication of a birthday card alleged he wrote to late sex predator Jeffrey Epstein, and a $15 million lawsuit against the Times over its coverage of its 2024 campaign. The president enjoyed a lucrative $16 million settlement from CBS News over his lawsuit contending the outlet's marquee 60 Minutes program made an unfair edit of former Vice President Kamala Harris to improve her public image. The president also notched a $15 million settlement with ABC News over his complaint that anchor George Stephanopoulos wrongly stated he was found liable for rape when the jury in the E. Jean Carroll case concluded he was only liable for sexual abuse. So he's been racking up the millions. He's getting like one agency after another to have to pay him. And I think this is an interesting thing. We're seeing, obviously, here, I appreciate the coverage of this by the Post, and that they're basically pointing out he's racking up the wins. This is the guy who created the phrase fake news. And they're only proving him right time and again. Like they're literally redefining the term fake news when it comes to Donald Trump. So much so that he's successful in lawsuits. It's not easy to win a defamation lawsuit, particularly when you're a public figure, which he certainly is a public figure by any yardstick. And he has to show actual malice, which doesn't mean actual hatred, although trust me, there is actual hatred, but he doesn't have to prove that. He's got to prove an intent to knowingly speak the falsehood or show a reckless disregard for same. And their coverage of him is so terrible, so lousy, that they end up, paying off $15 million suits, $16 million suits. That's how bad they are. That's how bad they are. They're just proving everything he's saying was 100% true. And, making him rich in the process. I don't know if he needs $30 million or so, but I'm sure he's not complaining. Sure, he's not complaining about it. So, what do I got here? What do I got here? Happy Hanukkah, Joe. Question. Latkes or sufganiyot? Keep up the good work, my friend. Thank you, brother. This guy's a member for 44 months. My God, we are old. 44 months. That's impressive, Grimsbar. I still remember your name. So, I haven't said your name in a long time, and I'm not going to now. But, yeah, so Grimsbar, thank you. The question he's asking here, latkes or sufganiyot? Latkes are a potato pancake. Thank you. Lady Logic actually made latkes tonight for supper. They're fried in oil. Sufganiyot are donuts. The idea being that because the miracle is with oil, so we end up eating a lot of oily foods during the holiday of Hanukkah. Depends a lot on who's latke and who's sufganiyot is just Hebrew for donut, and who's donut. It really matters a lot. Some donuts are really awesome, some are not. Some latkes are really awesome, some are not. Lady Logic is the best. But yeah. So it really depends, but both in general are pretty good. Mary Coppola, back to members. Oh, welcome back, Mary. Welcome back. Please remember, I know that you know this, but those who were thinking about joining the following, that she just became a follower. She'd been here before. Like she said, it's been a minute for her, and we've missed having her around. The chat certainly has missed you, as have I, and we welcome you back. And as you're aware, that becoming a follower is not me. It's not like you're joining some crazy type of. It's not at all a cult type of cult. Welcome aboard. All right. So there was another story that I probably would cover in hour 3. I'm probably not going to get there, about a crazy evil woman. And this old woman who stood up to her, that I really wanted. That it was one of the first stories that I actually found for you guys that I was planning to cover. Like, found this story, I was like, oh, boom, oh, we're totally going here. And then I got diverted. The Susie Wiles thing threw me for a loop. I was like, okay, this is going to take a nice chunk of time sorting through the Vanity Fair article. That's going to take a chunk of time. So I'm hoping we get there. And again, the goal here is that we get to our 15. That's the goal. We get to our 15 super chats. And if we get there, we get there. And if we don't, okay. All right. Bill Dozier saying, deport the brother lover. So I want to be clear on something. I didn't show this part of the interview also there, where she's talking about how Trump said that she's here illegally, and said she knows I've been here since I'm 12. I've been here legally. I'm a citizen and a sitting member of the House. He knows this, but he says this because he's lying. I will say this. I don't think there's questions as to the legitimacy of her naturalization. Now, I do think that we should be able to denaturalize her. I think that would be appropriate. But because I do think that she did get her status here, not through marrying her brother. And that is a misstatement that Trump made, which is annoying. It's annoying because it's such a critical thing. Do I think she married her brother? Oh, yeah, of course I do. But that was not for her direct benefit. It was more for the direct benefit of her brother, to help him be able to get in here and get a grant and get into school over here. So that was the illegal marriage and the fraud that she joined in on, which doesn't really have a penalty of denaturalization, although it damn well should, but it doesn't. So yeah, there's really no basis to have her removed from being an American citizen. Low that I wish there was. Instead, we basically need to expose all her corruption and have her thrown in prison. But yeah, so we can't really deport the brother lover, but I wish he had spoken that more accurately, because that is an inaccuracy that Trump said publicly. I hope it's not also her brother's son. I don't know. Supposedly her brother is like some kind of queer or something, like a closet queer, because if he admits in his community that he's queer, then one day they'll drag him out in the middle of the night and shiv him. That's probably a decent chance that something like that would happen. But he is a very, very effeminate individual. That's the reporting on him. She also lied about her birth year so she can come in under her dad. This is two different allegations in one. We'll move past that one. I was unaware of that. I never heard that claim before. I do think that committing fraud with her brother is a crime. I looked at what the crime could be. It's got a maximum of 5 years. I don't think you're going to get a conviction of her in Minnesota. This is the real problem. That's the real problem. And it's probably hard to bring that case outside Minnesota. That's really ultimately the problem. I mean, it would be humiliating for her. So that's definitely an upside. That's definitely an upside. We should talk about Susie Wiles. Let's talk about Susie Wiles. So there's a lot here to talk about. There's a very long Vanity Fair article. You probably have heard the name Susie Wiles. You probably don't know much about Susie Wiles. I admittedly feel as if I should know more about her than I do. I know that she basically, Trump credits her with getting him elected, just her campaign strategies. And she was his chief strategist and now is chief of staff. And she did an interview with Vanity Fair where she really seemed to blab a lot. So let's start breaking that down for you. And we'll start with an article here from the Post Millennial, because I don't think I'm going to make it all the way through the Vanity Fair article. And I do want to I do plan on reading parts of it. So you get a little bit of the flavor for some of the things that she said. But I do think that this is a nice overview here. Susie Wiles says Trump, ticked that Ghislaine Maxwell has moved to Texas prison and that Bondi whiffed on the Epstein case. This is something that I thought you all would find very interesting, that she's basically implying that Trump has problems with the way Pam Bondi handled Epstein. This is pretty big news. In the sense that after the whole Epstein debacle, when Trump was asked about the way that Pam Bondi handled it, his public statement about her was very defensive, saying that everything that she's doing is perfect. And now Susie Wiles is coming out as chief of staff and saying, well, he's being polite there. He doesn't think it's perfect. He's kind of ticked at her. So White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles spoke to Vanity Fair in a wide-ranging interview and revealed that AG Pam Bondi completely whiffed on the Epstein case, including the distribution of the Epstein binders early in 2025. She also said that the transfer of Epstein gal pal Ghislaine Maxwell from a prison in Florida to one in Texas made the Trump mighty unhappy. So he didn't like that she got moved. Quote, the president was ticked, Wiles said of Maxwell move that happened shortly after her attorney Todd Blanche interviewed her on Epstein and his alleged files. Quote, the president was mighty unhappy. I don't know why they moved her. Neither does the president. Wiles said that neither she nor Trump were consulted on the move and that it was Blanche's idea. Blanche is the deputy AG under Bondi. He met with Maxwell as tensions were rising over the Epstein files to interview her about Epstein's activities and who may have been involved. It is reported that Maxwell then sought leniency in her sentence. As for Bondi, Epstein, and the binders, Wiles said, I think she completely whiffed on appreciating that it was the very targeted group that cared about this First, she gave them binders full of nothingness, which that is exactly what happened. We're giving you binders of information, which was information that everyone had for at least 5 years. And then she said that the witness list or the client list was on her desk. There is no client list, and it sure as hell wasn't on her desk. Those who received the binders were roasted on social media, though they had been at the White House for reasons not involving Epstein at all because of their position in new media. Bondi had also said that an Epstein client list was sitting on her desk awaiting her review. Wiles said that wasn't entirely true either. She said that those who really knew what was up with Epstein were FBI Director and Deputy Director Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, and that they were the ones who really appreciated what a big deal the Epstein information was. They are the ones who have been covering it. I mean, seriously, Dan Bongino was covering the Epstein story as much as me or any other guy out there. And Kash Patel's writing books about what's going on with all the filth and corruption in D.C. So, yeah, they really were on top of this. They lived that world, she told Vanity Fair. This is true what she's saying here. And the vice president, who's been a conspiracy theorist for a decade. What? What are you saying, Susie? What the heck are you saying? For years, Kash has been saying, gotta release the files, and he's been saying that with the view of what he thought was in those files. That turns out not to be right. Patel and Bongino said earlier this year that Epstein did, in fact, kill himself in prison, and that the information that was believed to exist on Epstein's nefarious activities, namely who was involved in them and who benefited, was non-existent. So here, let's just pause here. She's saying Vice President Vance is a conspiracy theorist for a decade. Do you think that he calls himself a conspiracy theorist? Do you think that that's what he calls himself? That's an interesting comment. Let's see what J.D. Vance has to say about that. Vice President J.D. Vance on Tuesday responded to the Vanity Fair hit piece on White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. Wiles said President Trump has an alcoholic's personality. What? Did she really say that? Did she really say that Donald Trump has an alcoholic's personality? She said, this is his right-hand woman telling Vanity Fair, going in to like someone who you know hates President Trump and saying President Trump has an alcoholic's personality. Now, I don't know what the hell she means by this comment. Maybe she means he's weak-minded. I don't know. Maybe it's some other element to an alcoholic's personality. I have no idea. How the heck does Susie Wiles go out there and frame it this way for Vanity Fair? Assuming that they did not lie in what she said. How dare she go out there and say this? And I know that Barnes calls her Swampy Susie, and that they say that I've heard many a time that she's considered part of the swamp. You're the right-hand man to Trump, and you go out and tell Vanity Fair that Trump has an alcoholic's personality? I don't care what she says about J.D. Vance being a conspiracy theorist. That's just like, this is much, much worse. Much worse. The reason this is much worse is because whether he or not he's a conspiracy theorist, you can look at his posts and his comments and go back for the last 10 years. You can find public records of what he's been saying online, and people will be able to reach their own conclusions about the legitimacy of a claim that he's a conspiracy theorist, right? In other words, if I give you thoughts about what any regular podcaster thinks about something, and I misrepresent where they're coming from, or I mischaracterize it, well, everyone sees firsthand, true or not true. I personally don't look at J.D. Vance as being a conspiracy theorist. I guess someone can try and make that claim based on one thing or another, but I personally don't look at him that way. But it's not changing your perspective of what the person is like. When she says to Vanity Fair, Trump has an alcoholic's personality, She now is coming from a unique perspective that no one can refute because she alone has such intimate quarters in working with Trump day after day after day and seeing him in his great moods and his terrible moods, on days where he has success, on days where there's more of a struggle. She has that unique perspective, and she's assessing that he has an alcoholic's personality, which, even if that somehow is meant to be some sort of compliment, which I doubt it is, but even if it is meant to be that way, how dare you go out and frame it that way in a way that you know is now going to be splashed across leftist media as his own right-hand man or woman says that he's pretty much like an alcoholic. I mean, what the hell's wrong with you? What the heck is wrong with you? How do you say such a thing? We often spoke on Sundays after church. Wiles and an Episcopalian calls herself Catholic Light. Yeah, Wiles also called Vance a conspiracy theorist. One time we spoke while she was doing her laundry in D.C. rental. One time we spoke while she was doing her laundry in her Washington, D.C. rental. Trump, she told me, has an alcoholic's personality. Vance's conversion from never Trumpet to MAGA acolyte, she said, has been sort of political. This is her way of trying to take down Vance. He's not real MAGA. I'm real MAGA. He's not real MAGA. It's just a political move by him. The vice president, she added, has been a conspiracy theorist for a decade. Russell Vought, architect of the notorious Project 2025 and head of the Office of Management and Budget, is a right-wing absolute zealot. When I asked her what she thought of Musk reposting a tweet about public sector workers killing millions under Hitler, Stalin, and Mao, she replied, I think that's what he's microdosing. As expected, the Vanity Fair hit piece created a firestorm. Vance hit back at a reporter who asked about Susie Wiles, calling him a conspiracy theorist. I only believe in the conspiracy theories that are true, Vance said to Cheers. And by the Susie and I have joked in public and in private about that for a long time. So maybe that's some running gag. Like I said, her assessment of Vance being a conspiracy theorist, that's not nearly as biting as the alcoholic personality. Who does this? Who does this? Who is this lady? She's literally Trump's right-hand man. Chief of staff. For example, I believe in the crazy conspiracy theory back in 2020 that it was stupid to mask 3-year-olds in the height of the COVID pandemic, that we should have let them develop some language skills, Vance said. I believe in this crazy conspiracy theory. Do we have a clip of this? Here we go.
Radical jihadists are not done. Iran promises death to America. They've built...
Vice President Jacob Bogage from the Washington Post, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Same to you.
Unfortunately, I have to ask a bit of an off-topic question from affordability because news events do intervene, and that is the interviews that White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles gave to Vanity Fair, in which she's quoted as referring to you as, excuse me, and again, not my words, sir, but a conspiracy theorist of a decade, and described your transformation from someone who once opposed President Trump to now his vice president as an act of political expediency. And I'd like to give you the chance to respond to that, sir.
Well, first of all, if Susie, I'll trust what you said. I haven't looked at the article. I of course have heard about it, but conspiracy theorist. Sometimes I am a conspiracy theorist, but I only believe in the conspiracy theories that are true.
It's a perfect answer.
And by the way, Susie and I have joked in private and in public about that for a long time. For example, I believed in the crazy conspiracy theory back in 2020 that it was stupid to mask 3-year-olds at the height of the COVID pandemic, that we should actually let them develop some language skills. You know, I believed in this crazy conspiracy theory that the media and the government were covering up the fact that Joe Biden was clearly unable to do the job.
Nice.
And I believed in the conspiracy theory that Joe Biden was trying to throw his political opponents in jail rather than win an argument against his political opponents. So,
Nice.
at least on some of these conspiracy theories, it turns out that a conspiracy theory is just something that was true 6 months before the media admitted it. And that's my understanding. Now, look, I do want to say something about Susie, though, because, again, having not read this article, Susie is a person I've come to know very, very well. And, you know, a lot of you probably ask yourself, what is it like behind the scenes? What's going on actually behind the scenes of the Trump?
This is what we all want to know. We all want to know. What's it like back there? The Vanity Fair article gives its own perspective as portrayed by Susie Wiles. So we're sort of getting like a precursor here from JD Vance.
Administration. And I'll tell you, the president is exactly in private who he is in public. Like, I'll tell you a little story. Actually a week or so ago, I walk into the Oval Office and Marco and I are sitting there talking with the president about something. He says, stop. And he looks at our shoes and says, you guys have terrible shoes. So he goes and gets a shoe catalog. And remember, this is the Christmas season, so the president's got some holiday cheer. He goes and gets a shoe catalog and gets his favorite shoes and orders like 4 pairs of shoes for me and 4 pairs of shoes for Marco, because he's like, you know, we need our vice president or secretary of state to look their very best. And, you know, then we went back to talking about whatever major, you know, international issue we were talking about. Again, he is exactly in private who he is in public. That's not true of most people in Washington, D.C. It's not. And I've seen so many people who will say one thing to the president's face, Democrats and Republicans, and then will do the exact opposite behind the scenes. You know why I really, you know what they are, and you know why I really love Susie Wiles? Because Susie is who she is in the president's presence. She's the same exact person when the president isn't around. I've never seen Susie Wiles say something to the president and then go and counteract him or subvert his will behind the scenes. And that's what you want in a staffer. Because as much as I love Susie, the American people didn't elect any staffer. They elected the president of the United States. And what you want, in a staffer is a person who understands they are there to effectuate the will of the American people, and they're there to follow the orders of the duly elected commander-in-chief of the United States. And Susie Wiles, we have our disagreements. We agree on much more than we disagree, but I've never seen her be disloyal to the president of the United States, and that makes her the best White House chief of staff that I think the president could ask for.
I don't know. Alcoholic personality doesn't sound like that. Doesn't sound that great. That doesn't sound that great to me. That's just me. He doesn't know that she said that. I don't know that she said that. We're trusting Vanity Fair on that. So, and they're often fake news. But so that's a great clip of JD Vance right there. Let's take a look at this article. Let's start breaking down this article. We'll see how much of it we get through here. Look at this. This is their cover photo. All right. Okay. Susie Wiles, JD Vance, and the Junkyard Dogs, the White House Chief of Staff on Trump's second term, part 1 of 2. So there's another part coming. There's another part coming. This is just part 1. Oh, Susie, Susie, Susie! On the morning of November 4, 2025, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles meeting the Oval Office. Top advisors, men she calls core team. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff. The agenda was twofold. Ending the congressional filibuster and forcing Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro from power. As she related it later, President Donald Trump was holding forth on the filibuster when Wiles stood up and started from the door. Trump eyed her. Is this an emergency that you have to leave? He demanded. It was nothing of the sort, but Wiles left Trump guessing. She replied, "It's an emergency. It doesn't involve you." With that, according to Wiles, she departed the Oval. Wiles, wearing dark pants and a plain... This is such a weird intro. Are we going to explain what the hell she was doing? Okay. I guess they want to keep us on the edge of our seats. Wiles wearing dark pants, playing... Okay, I don't care about this. I don't care what she's talked to her about. Okay. I don't care about that. We often spoke on Sundays. Wiles, an Episcopalian, calls herself Catholic Light. One time we spoke while she was doing a laundry in Washington, D.C. rental. Trump, she told me, has an alcoholic's personality. Vance's conversion from never Trump to MAGA acolyte, she said, has been sort of political. I don't know. This sounds like she's trying to hack him to pieces. This sounds like she's trying to harm his presidential aspirations, which we all assume JD Vance has for 2028. Why would you tell Vanity this? We should know who's writing this. Chris Whipple. Okay. The vice president, she added, has been a conspiracy theorist for a decade. Russell Vaught, architect of the notorious Project 2025 and head of the Office of Management and Budget, is a right-wing absolute zealot. When I asked her about what she thought of Musk reposting a tweet about public sector workers killing millions under Hitler, Stalin, and Mao, she replied, "I think that's when he's microdosing." I don't know what microdosing means. Oh, microdosing on drugs. Wiles is the most powerful person in Trump's White House other than the president himself. Unlike any chief of staff before her, she's a woman. So the first female chief of staff, you never hear the media talking about that. So many, but I guess now they like what she's saying, and that's why they basically want to give her extra gravitas. Quote, "So many decisions of great consequence are being made on the whim of the president, and as far as I can tell, the only force that can direct or channel that whim is Susie," a former Republican chief told me. "In most White Houses, the chief of staff is first among a bunch of equals. She may be the first with no equals. I don't think there's anybody in the world right now that could do the job that she's doing," Rubio told me. And I do think it's possible, by the way, that when JD Vance is so complimentary of Susie Wiles, it could be out of a concern for crossing her. Or it could just be that he's being polite. We don't know. I do think that she's a neocon. Vance described Wiles' approach to the chief's job. There is this idea that people have that I think was very common in the first administration. He told me that they, quote, that their objective was to control the president or influence the president or even manipulate the president because they had to in order to serve the national interest. Susie just takes the diametrically opposite viewpoint, which is that she's a facilitator, that the American people have elected Donald Trump, and her job is to actually facilitate his vision and to make his vision come to life. It's been a busy year. Trump and his team have expanded the limits of presidential power. Nope. Nope. He's exercised his presidential power. Hasn't expanded anything. Unilaterally declared war on drug cartels. Okay. Imposed tariffs according to whim. I don't know if it's whim so much as perhaps advice of his staff as well. Sealed the southern border. That sounds like a great thing. Achieved a ceasefire and hostage release in Gaza. That's also a great thing. Pressured NATO allies into increasing their defense spending. So basically, he's been in every international arena a remarkable success. At the same time, Trump has waged war on his political enemies, pardoned the J6 rioters, firing nearly everyone involved in the investigation and prosecution, sued media companies into multi-million-dollar settlements. Why is this something that's considered like a negative? I know you're trying to say that this is a negative. You're trying to say pardoning J6 rioters, which they're not rioters, they're tourists, fire nearly everyone involved in the investigation and prosecution as if that's like a horrible thing. Sued media companies into multi-million-dollar settlements. I'm not sure that's why are they offering it? Why are they offering multi-million-dollar settlements if not for the fact that they, instead of getting it dismissed? Indicted multiple government officials he perceives as his foes. See, this is a list of things they're saying are evil things he did. I don't understand any of this. I mean, I understand you don't like that he's partying the J6 insurrectionists, the J6 tourists. But I don't understand. Suing media companies, there's something wrong with that? And pressured universities to toe his line. You mean basically stop being anti-American. That's another thing he did. He's redefined the way presidents behave, verbally abusing women, minorities, almost anyone who offends him. No, he doesn't abuse women, minorities. He treats people the same, irrespective of whether they are women or minorities. He doesn't give kid gloves to women or minorities. That's actually a credit to him. They'll give them the same, that when they act like jackasses, they don't get a pass because they're a woman or because they have dark skin. Charlie Kirk's assassination in September turbocharged Trump's campaign of revenge and retribution. Did it? Did it? How so? Critics have compared this moment to a Reichstag fire, a modern version of Hitler's exploitation of the torching of Berlin's parliament. How so? You going to give us any sort of like backup for that, or it's just like let's just pretend that that's actually fact because we say so? I'm assuming it's the latter. Historically, the White House chief of staff is the president's gatekeeper, confidant, and executor of his agenda. Often means telling the president hard truths. Upon taking office, Ronald Reagan was hell-bent on reforming Social Security. James A. Baker III explained to him that cutting Social Security benefits was a third rail of American politics. Reagan pivoted to tax cuts and was ultimately reelected in a landslide. Reagan probably could have affected Social Security and still won that 1984 election. The dude got like 480 electoral votes. Rumsfeld, George Gerald Ford's chief, explained, the White House chief of staff is the one person besides his wife who can look him right in the eye and say, this is not right. You simply can't go down that road. Okay. The question around Wiles' tenure under Trump has been whether she'll do anything to restrain him. A better question, does she want to? Why should she be restraining him? I don't understand this. I don't understand this. I mean, this is Vanity Fair, so they're starting with an assumption that obviously, they also start with obviously he's been supercharged like a Reichstag fire. I can't even think of one thing he's done since Charlie Kirk's assassination, which makes it seem as if he's out. I mean, treating this like a Reichstag fire. Maybe they would say the Somalian thing. Maybe. I'm just trying to work with me. This is so baffling. Where they come from with this crap. What the hell does this even mean? What? Tell me. I want to hear from you guys. Just what do you think they're even referring to? Is it that he's cracking down on Somalians and referring to them as third world country? So I don't really see how that's related to Charlie Kirk assassination. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. You're right. It doesn't feel like journalism. It feels as if this is just an article. This is like a fairy tale. It seems like it's unfettered access over a period of time. That's what it's seen. That's what it's coming across to me as. Uzelian says, Joe, I want to issue a correction to you. Okay. What did I miss here? I'm going to try and come back to that. But that was a $10 rant, so we got to count that. Also, I should welcome all those who came over raiding from Robert Gouveia, which I missed that raid. So thank you, brother. Much obliged to you. So it does seem like it's going on for over a period of time. Our first conversation took place a little more than a week before the inauguration. And she said, at no point did I not think we would not win. Not in my core, not in my sleep, not in my rational mind. But on that January day, as second inauguration approached, Wiles determined to show the world a new Trump. I told Hakeem Jeffries, you'll see a different Donald Trump when he gets there. I've not seen him throw anything. I've not seen him scream. I didn't see that really horrible behavior that people talk about that I actually experienced years ago. See? Wiles' childhood had prepared her for difficult men. What the hell is this? What the hell is this? What the hell is this? They talk about her being the son of Pat Summerall, who's a famous broadcaster on behalf of, who was on CBS, teamed up with John Madden for years. Well, look at this whole framing here. Some clinical psychologist that knows 1 in a million times more than I dispute, and will dispute what I'm going to say. But high-functioning alcoholics, or alcoholics in general, their personalities are exaggerated when they drink. And so I'm a little bit of an expert in big personalities. Wiles said Trump has an alcoholic's personality. He operates with a view that there's nothing he can't do. Nothing, zero, nothing. Okay. Okay. Now, when you look at this in this framing here of her trying to frame it as a compliment, that he has an alcoholic's personality of feeling like there's nothing you can do, you can understand now how the Vanity Fair is basically, trying to portray as if she's referring to him as being like an alcoholic, but she's actually saying this as a compliment, which really shows a little bit of surprising lack of acumen from Susie Wiles, a concerning lack of acumen given how long she's been in this role. I remember many decades ago, there was a mini series about Charles and Di. I think it might have been called that, Charles and Di. Prince Charles and Princess Diane. And it was covering their relationship from, courting until marriage and their wedding and their lives afterwards. And even though she came from royalty herself, as I recall, I don't remember. I don't follow really UK royals at all, but I do think that she has some sort of royal pedigree. She was never in the spotlight the way Prince Charles, which I guess now is King Charles, had been. She just didn't have that type of exposure throughout her life because she was a less significant royal than Prince Charles. In this documentary, there was a moment when very early on, it's not really a documentary, it was a miniseries. In this miniseries, they're portraying that there was a moment early on in Diane's becoming a real public figure. There are royals who no one ever heard of, which she had been, and then there are royals who are in the limelight all the time, like we see Will and Harry all the time, or Charles, his whole life was always in the spotlight because he's the heir apparent to the throne. So, but then there are other offshoots. People know less about Andrew and would know less, but for his ridiculous predilections that are just a national disgrace. But the point that I'm getting at, the reason I'm sharing this with you, is because what I remember from this miniseries is that there was a moment early on in Princess Diane being introduced to the media when I think that their engagement had first been announced. So she was basically coming out and the media was coming to meet her. And it was a sunny day. And she was, dressed elegantly as she always did. And the media basically, where there was a whole photo op thing that was going on. And they kept asking her to move over a little bit, move over that way, move over a little bit that way. And they were repositioning her specifically because they were trying to get the shadow behind her and like the light to basically shine on her so that they could actually, make out through her skirt, like see her legs, which was like a scandal that like, you can see the princess's legs through her skirt. And, and they were basically, the reason I'm sharing this with you is because they were talking about how the media is going to try and do whatever they can to, make things as salacious as possible. And when you don't have political savvy, when you're not used to it, when you're not, you don't have any exposure to it, you end up falling for their tricks. You end up falling for their objectives, which is basically to try and humiliate you or get some scoop that they think is going to titillate the public. So it was basically, what I took away from it was basically that the media are jackals, and they're going to try and be jackals. And if you don't have experience in dealing with the media, you are likely to find yourself at their mercy with respect to how they're going to frame you, either with their pictures or their words. The reason I'm bringing this story up in this context is because the way this is coming across to me right here and now when I read this paragraph is that she probably did say all of these things. I did say all these things, right? Some clinical psychologists will know that knows 1 million more times more than I dispute what I'm going to say. But high functioning alcoholics their personalities exaggerated, and when they drink. So I'm an expert in big personalities. He has an alcoholic's personality. If you have enough media savvy, you have to recognize they're going to try and isolate that. So this way, people are able to throw up headlines, which most public don't read past the headline of Trump's chief of staff admits he's got an alcoholic's personality. Now, in this context over here, she seems to be saying it as a positive that he has so much self-confidence that he basically says there's nothing I can't do. Nothing. Zero. Nothing. I can do anything. Even if it's things that he can't do. The point being, even if it's things he can't do, but he just has so much self-confidence in what he can do that he'll go out there and assume he can get it done. So I think that you can understand that she's trying to frame this in a way that is actually highly complimentary to Donald Trump, but lacking the sufficient political savvy to recognize that these 5 words here, Trump has an alcoholic's personality, this cannot leave your lips. You can't say that. I don't care what the framing you're giving. I don't care what framing you're giving it, Susie Wiles. If you're sufficient political savvy, you have to recognize you cannot say this. These 5 words, or these 3 words in reference to Trump as having an alcoholic's personality, you cannot say those words because that will be twisted. That will purposefully be twisted because the media are jackals. And sometimes they're going to be jackals in trying the way they'll photograph you, and sometimes they'll be jackals in the way they're going to try and twist your words. You have to have much more political savvy than this, Susie Wiles, where you don't actually end up saying something like this over here. Trump has an alcoholic's personality. Who the hell? How stupid do you have to be to actually utter this phrase without realizing how it's going to be twisted by the media? Susie Summerall got her first taste policies in the late 70s. I don't care about her personal background. Don't care about that. I don't care about her life with Pat Summerall. I happen to like Pat Summerall. He did a great job calling games. He had a phenomenal voice. But, yeah, I don't really care about any of that. I had become disenchanted with what we now call traditional Republicans, she recalled. Her relationship with Trump almost ended at the Miami Golf Club one night in the fall of 2016. Don't really care about that. Don't really care about that little fallout. But even this part of this is just making him look like he's abusive. That when he was losing in the polls, it was horrific, hour plus. And I don't think I've seen him that angry since. He was ranting and raving, and I didn't know whether to argue back or whether to be stoic. What I really want to do was cry. You see, you can't be saying stuff like this. You can't be saying stuff like this. You can't be saying stuff like this. This is just wrong, Susie. God. I finally said, you know, Mr. Trump, if you want somebody to set their hair on fire and be crazy, I'm not your girl. But if you want to win this state, I am. It's your choice. See, even this makes him sound like, you know, he has to be like, why? Why are you telling Vanity Fair this? Why are you doing this? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Just ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Wiles walked out. Trump turned on a dime. Oh, look at how the woman got him in control. Lo and behold, he called me every day. Wiles never looked back. Trump carried Florida, the first big prize in his stunning 2016 upset over Hillary Clinton. So then she went to work for DeSantis. January 20, 2025, Trump's first day in office, president signed a flurry of executive orders, 26 in all, withdrawing the U.S. from World Health Organization, the Paris Climate Agreement, rescinding birthright citizenship, sending troops to the southern border, freezing foreign aid, and stopping federal hiring. One great move after another. Then Trump issued pardons to almost everyone convicted in the bloody January 6, 2021 assault. It wasn't bloody. What the hell are you talking about? The bloody assault. Shut up. It's bloody because some of them got killed. Because one of them got killed. In which 9 people ultimately died. Listen, what, are you out of your freaking minds? No, 9 people died? 9 people died? You're so stupid. Like, who actually, what the hell are you talking about? What 9 people died? 9 people died. Idiots. One person. One person. So stupid. You're so stupid. You're so full of crap. The chair asked the president, wait a minute, do you really want to pardon all 1,500 January 6 convicts, or should we be more selective? I did exactly that, Wiles replied. I said, I'm on board with the people that were happenstancers or didn't do anything violent. We certainly know what everybody did because the FBI has done such an incredible job. No, they had not done an incredible job. As of January 20th, 2025, they had not done an incredible job with that. No. Trump has said his FBI investigators were corrupt and part of a deep state. Yes. He's the good. Susie Wiles is terrible. Oh my God. Trump argued that even the violent offenders have been unfairly treated. And he's right. Wiles explained, in every case, the ones he was looking at, in every case, they had already served more time than the sentence guidelines would have suggested. Yep. Yep. So given that, I sort of got on board. And this is a very important statement right here. They had already served, even the violent ones had served more time than recommended. According to court records, many of the January 6 rioters, pardoned by Trump, have received sentences that were lighter than the guidelines. Really? 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 Oh, give us names of that. Give us names of those. There have been a couple of times where I've been outvoted. Wiles said, and if there's a tie, he wins. I don't like this woman. In the West Wing, Wiles is surrounded by young MAGA men. She's a go-to-church every Sunday, uses swear word very, very rarely, person said. Wiles' 36-year-old deputy chief of staff. That's James Blair, Wiles' 36-year-old deputy chief of staff. She doesn't raise her voice, but she likes being around junkyard dogs. Indeed, Wiles has seemed content to let her pit bulls, deputy chief of staff Miller, Blair, and Dan Scavino run loose as she watches. During Oval Office events, Wiles almost always sits just off camera. There's the president, and then there's whoever the 3 high-ranking people are on the sofa. she said. And then there's a chair at the corner of the sofa, which is my chair, which means I'm the one that gets hit in the head with the boom mic. For all the chaos in the cabinet, Wiles has kept palace intrigue and shivving to a minimum in the White House. Trump has empowered her. When Wiles weighs in, everyone knows she's speaking for him. She has in turn empowered her team, Blair, Miller, Scavino, and Taylor Budowich, who departed in September. I'm getting annoyed reading this. I'm really getting annoyed at this woman. I'm getting annoyed. They can't find any papers work on her father. This is a reference to Ilhan Omar that John Mosley is making here, which I have a link here, which is basically, I'll try and come back to this. It's all BS and noise, Heisenberg? Maybe. She said it because she's a saboteur? Maybe. I don't know if she's a willing saboteur. I don't know if that's her objective. It's like how do I screw over Trump? More a matter of like, I have my own personal agenda and I'm going to push that way. Susie better recorded that conversation. If she was smart, she did. Unlike the judges without jurisdiction issuing TROs against the president is the opposite of expanding power. I'm astonished at their claims. It's horrible. Well, when you say I believe Vanity Fair, I'm sitting here arguing with their basic claims that they're making here. I have no idea what was said there. They are quoting her. It's not like they're quoting like an anonymous person. They're quoting her and they get some quote wrong. I'm sure we'll hear that from her, right? 2 people died, 1 shot, 1 beaten by the Capitol Police. Yeah. 9 people. And here we get the kissing up from her staff. First and foremost, she brings no ego, says Blair, and that's the starting point from which just an immense amount of power flows. There's so much ego and testosterone around here, there wouldn't be any room for hers anyway. From day one, she had to grapple with Elon Musk. He's a complete solo actor, said Wiles of Trump's billionaire pal, who led the scorched earth blitz known as as Doge. Wiles described Musk as something akin to a jacked up Nosferatu. Nosferatu is a reference to a vampire. The challenge with Elon is keeping up with him, she told me. He's an avowed ketamine user, and he sleeps in a sleeping bag in the executive office building in the daytime. And he's an odd duck, as I think geniuses are. You know, it's not helpful, but he is his own person. Musk triggered the first true crisis of the Trump presidency as an early test for Wiles. Trump's chief was shocked when the SpaceX founder eviscerated USAID. Quote, I was initially aghast, Wiles told me. Why? Why are you aghast? See, this is why people say, what the hell's, why are you there? Why are you there? This is like so, why are you there? You were aghast. Everyone who's MAGA was celebrating and you're aghast. Because I think anybody who pays attention to government ever paid attention to USAID believed as I did that they do very good work. This is why you're terrible. This is why you're terrible, Susie. In his executive order freezing foreign aid, Trump had decreed that life-saving programs should be spared. Instead, they were shuttered. When Elon said, we're doing this, he was already into it, said Wiles, and that probably because he knew it would be horrifying to others, but he decided that it was a better approach to shut it down, fire everybody, shut them out, and then go rebuild. Not the way I would do it. Yeah, because you suck. You suck, Susie Wiles. What can I tell you? I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm being too harsh here. I'm sorry. No, you're terrible. You're awful, Susie Wiles. Wiles knew that fixing this was on her. The president doesn't know and never will, she told me. He doesn't know the details of the smallish agencies. That actually makes sense to me. Wiles said she called Musk on the carpet. Quote, you can't just lock people out of their offices, she recalls telling him. At first, Wiles didn't grasp the effect that slashing USAID programs would have on humanitarian aid. Quote, I didn't know a lot about the extent of their grant making, but with immunizations halted in Africa, lives would be lost. Oh, I see. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. This is getting worse and worse. Worse and worse. I think they were building this story for 11 months. I think they were building it. Soon she was getting frantic calls from relief agency heads and former government officials with a dire message. Thousands of lives were in the balance. There are always lives in the balance. Well, I'll continue. So Marco is on his way to Panama. We call him and say, your Senate confirmed. You're going to have to be the custodian, essentially, of USAID. Okay, he says. But Musk forged ahead. All throttle, no brake. Elon's attitude is you have to get it done fast. If you're an incrementalist, you just won't get your rocket to the moon. Wiles said. And so with that attitude, you're going to break some China. But no rational person could think the USAID process was a good one. Nobody. You're terrible. You're terrible. You're terrible. Oh, you're terrible. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. No rational person could think that getting rid of USAID was a good one. How do we get this? I don't know how to get rid of this woman. I don't know how to get rid of her. This is... You and me both, Rachel. Showing USAID cripple the president's emergency plan for AIDS relief. The anti-retroviral program, launched with $15 billion by George Bush in 2003, was credited with preventing millions of deaths. Depending on USAID grants. In an interview with Financial Times, Bill Gates remarked, the picture of the world's richest man killing the world's poorest children is not a pretty one. Privately, another drama is playing out. Bush himself had gotten wind of the gutting of PEPFAR. He called Rubio to express alarm, according to a former aide close to Bush. He's been appalled by Trump from the beginning. Yeah, big surprise. And she's like a big Bushy. She's a big Bush fan. He's been appalled by Trump from the beginning, and he's determined not to weigh in. The aide said, but Musk's attack on one of his legacy achievements was too much. Bush said the person cares deeply about the PEPFAR program. That and wounded warriors are the two things that he will weigh in on. Not publicly, but with intention. Did Rubio have any regrets about the untold number of lives that PEPFAR's evisceration might cost? No. First of all, whoever says that is just not being accurate, he told me. We're not eviscerating PEPFAR. PEPFAR has been rearranged and reorganized in such a way that we're now going to be able to deliver aid in a way that has a goal. The goal is to help countries become self-sustaining. With a note of America first, he added, let's begin with the premise. Is it the United States' fault? Why isn't China paying more for immunizations? Why isn't the UK or Canada or any of the G7 countries? Why the hell is this for the American taxpayer to pay? See, this is someone who's actually caring about American perspective. The UK, following the footsteps of the US, slashed foreign aid in 2025. In November, China, which funded the Africa CDC, pledged $3.5 million in AIDS prevention in South Africa alone. Ooh, $3.5 million from the country of China. Ooh. We lose $3.5 million every minute. $3.5 million. This stupid freaking rag. $3.5 million. Oh, the country gave all $3.5 million. When I repeated Rubio's comment to a former GOP White House chief of staff, he remarked, I find that immoral. No one gives a damn. No one gives a damn. This is why the Susie Wiles of the earth are such a hindrance to MAGA. No one cares. Day 8. Our job is lethal. This is teaching me. This is like basically an article why you should hate Susie Wiles. I understand it's Vanity Fair. I understand it's Vanity Fair. To the extent that there's a quote, I'm assuming that those quotes are accurate. It's a quote attributed to her. Walk me through, Cheryl. What do you think they're doing? What do you think they're doing? What do you think I'm falling for here? Everything they're saying here is consistent with Susie Wiles that we've heard about. This is all consistent with what Susie Wiles is about. And she's a very big neocon, big government spending, not MAGA whatsoever. And everything she's saying here sounds like your classic Tea Party Republican, not MAGA. So tell me where it is that you think I'm falling for something here, that Vanity Fair is tricking me into something, when they're quoting her saying things that I find horrifying. I don't trust Vanity Fair at all, but why would she, such a private person, give them, of all people, an interview? So you're saying this Chris dude is making up that he had these conversations with her? You guys really think that she didn't talk to them at all? We see that Trump and his staff will interact with the media. We see them do that all the time. We see Trump give interviews to Leslie Stahl and to all the wackos from CNN. We see them give these interviews. So I don't know why you would think that it's impossible that she would sit down with Vanity Fair when they're saying we have quotes directly of what she told us. It's not like this is like, oh, this is the first time someone from his staff talked to the media. Stephen Miller talks to the media all the time. He just calls them a bunch of fools. Says you're a bunch of freaking liars. And no one's quoting Stephen Miller saying stuff like this. Gotcha, brother. I mean, tell me where I'm wrong. I don't understand it. Let me take care of that real quick before I will forget otherwise. I forgot yesterday. I felt guilty about it. So yeah, I don't understand. I don't know why you guys all seem to think that there's no way that these conversations. I don't understand. I'm not there. I'm not that place where you guys are. Our job is lethality, readiness, and warfighting. Pete Hegseth on his first days in the Pentagon. I remember him saying that. For Trump, Wallace says he'll pick out a cabinet of MAGA hardliners. Pete Hegseth, yeah. Kash Patel, yeah. John Ratcliffe, no. Pam Bondi, no. Tulsi Gabbard, Kristi Noem, sort of. Sort of. I mean, I'm not saying Kristi Noem hasn't been good in the job, and Tulsi Gabbard's been great in the job. I will agree that walking into this this administration, Hegseth and Patel are considered MAGA hardliners. Wallace called them world-class cabinet, better than anything I could have conceived of. Really? This? Not a big fan of John Ratcliffe either, but Wallace calls them a world-class cabinet, better than anything you should conceive of. People talk about the deep state being at the State Department. Wallace said, "That's you." That's you. It's not. It's the military-industrial complex. Hegseth, in her view, is just a guy to take on the powers that be, and he has been great. She referred to Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr., another world-class disruptor, as my Bobby and quirky Bobby. In Wall's view, RFK Jr.'s shock treatment of HHS is warranted. He pushes the envelope. Some would say too far, but I say in order to get back to the middle, you have to push it too far. That's logical. That I agree with. In December, Kennedy's federal vaccine panel voted to end the decades-long recommendation for newborn vaccinations against hepatitis B, which is highly infectious and causes liver failure. Day 56, March 16th. U.S. deports hundreds of Venezuelans to El Salvador despite court order. In mid-March, it was a ridiculous court order, despite absurd, asinine court order telling them not to. In mid-March, after Trump invoked a court order that later would be overturned. In mid-March, after Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act, ICE agents shackled and herded 238 immigrants onto transport planes and flew them to a notoriously brutal Salvadoran prison. They were members of Tren de Aragua. Most had committed no serious crimes. Really? Really? One, Kilmer Abrego Garcia's deportment mistake, the Trump administration admitted. See, this seems like Steve Mills. They post these pictures. I'll concede that we got to look harder at our process for deportation, Wiles told me at the time. When we spoke again in April in cities across the country, masked ICE agents were snatching people off the street, throwing them in vans, and zip tying and frog marching them into makeshift deportation camps. Makeshift deportation camps. Many were U.S. citizens or entitled to be here. That's crap. What percentage is your 170? 170 cases in the first 9. What percentage? What percentage is that? What percentage is that? Tell me what percentage it is. It's not 1%. It's much less than 1%. I think it's less than 0.5%. If someone's a known gang member who has a criminal past and you're sure that and you can demonstrate it, it's probably fine to send them to El Salvador or whatever, Wiles told me. But if there's a question, I think our process to lean toward a double check. But as USA.gov site itself notes, in some cases, a non-citizen is subject to expedited removal without being able to attend a hearing in immigration courts. It's a non-citizen. So I'm not sitting here worried. They don't have to have this is crap reporting over here. Because sometimes if they don't contest it, why would they go to immigration courts? This is the sort of thing that they lift a quote like this out of context, and I'm positive that there's an explanation that if they don't deny that they're supposed to be removed, then we just remove them. We don't bother immigration court, and they don't have to. But it's a way of trying to stoke the fires of their stupid idiot readers to see they're breaking the law, they're violating due process. They admit they're violating due process. That's what sentences like this from Vanity Fair are designed to do, make you think that they're like completely just ignoring the law. Not long after the El Salvadoran deportation fiasco in Louisiana, ICE agents arrested and deported 2 mothers along with their children, ages 7, 4, and 2 to Honduras. The children are U.S. citizens, and the 4-year-old was being treated for stage 4 cancer. Wiles couldn't explain it. Yeah, you know why she couldn't explain it? Because she didn't read up on it. But I can explain it to you. I'll explain it to you right now. She wasn't a legal citizen. She's an illegal alien. Her kids were born here, so she popped these kids out on American soil and then wanted to rely on them as an anchor. And Trump said, no, they're not your freaking anchor. You go. You want to leave them here? Leave them here. You want to take them with you? Take them with you. So, no, the children are not deported. The mother is deported and chooses to take the children with them. That's what has happened every single time. Whenever they talk about these illegal deportations, what you have is a number of instances, and I did this because I fought with Grok, and when I was asked them, give me the name of one U.S. citizen who was wrongfully deported. I want one U.S. citizen who was wrongfully deported, and there ain't none. There's not a single one who was ever deported. This is the lie that Vanity Fair is trying to tell you right here. This is a flat-out bogus BS. You're full of crap lie. Because what you have sometimes, even with Kilmer Abrego Garcia, he's not an American citizen. It's a question as far as his status and his right to be here. They might have a right to be here. They might not be an illegal alien. That's possible. Or we might not have deportation orders for him yet, that they get held on. They get held in abeyance for one reason or another. There was an order for his removal a long time ago. They make it sound as if, oh my God, they're going to come to your house. If you have brown skin, they're going to come to your house, and masked ICE agents are going to snatch you up, zip tie your hands behind your back, and frog march you out to some van before they kick you off to a Salvadoran prison. That's what they're trying to portray here, which is utter BS. They're talking about people who are not here legally, and these American citizens and these children with the stage 4 cancer, which I feel bad for anyone who's got stage 4 cancer. You don't have to be a child to get my sympathy for that. I feel terrible for anyone who's dealing with cancer. I don't want to see them suffering, but they're trying to actually draw out, and I've read about this specific stage 4 child who was an American citizen. They say deported, not deported. Mother deported. Mother said, I'm taking kid with me. That is a parental choice. It's the government's not saying that the cancer kid has to go. They're saying you have to go, and we're not going to keep your cancer kid from you. We're going to let you take your cancer kid with you if you want to. But the way this rag, this drivel, this crap over here comes out here and says, "Oh yeah, they deported children, including a stage 4 child." You're liars. This is not true. They were not deported. They left with a mother who was deported. It's a big difference because they had a legal right to stay here. They could still be here, but for the mother saying, "I'm taking him with me," which is her right. I don't blame her doing that. I'm not saying she was wrong for doing that. I'm saying Vanity Fair is full of crap and big-time liars when they come out and say that those kids were forced out of the country by the Trump administration, because that didn't happen ever. It could be an overzealous border. So they asked Susie Wiles. She doesn't know anything about that story. And they're like, "Oh, she can't explain it." Because if you just portray it with your stupid, twisted framing, yeah, she can't explain it. So now let's hear her speculation when she doesn't know anything about the facts of this case. It could be an overzealous Border Patrol agent. Nope. I don't know. She's now guessing, and they're quoting her guessing. Both mothers have reportedly been arrested after voluntarily attending routine immigration meetings. I can't understand how you make that mistake, but somebody did. It's not a mistake. There was no mistake. They're not here legally. This is such crap. Long threatened tariffs from President Donald Trump plunged the country into trade wars abroad. Yeah, we kicked ass in these trade wars. This is such hot garbage. Yeah, she's trying to reel him in by saying, "We told Donald Trump, hey, let's not talk about tariffs today. Let's wait until we have a team of complete unity, and then we'll do it." But Trump barreled ahead, announcing sweeping reciprocal tariffs from 10 to 100%, which triggered panic in the bond market and sell-off of stocks. And he paused his policy for 90 days, but by that time, the president's helter-skelter levies had given rise to the taco chant, "Trump always chicken out." What the hell are you talking about? Now she's admitting it's been more painful than I expected. It's pathetic. This is pathetic. This is ultimately what we're seeing here, okay? You want to know what we're seeing here? This is what we're seeing here. I'll tell you what we're seeing here. We're seeing here a woman who is out of her depth, okay? You don't give quotes to Vanity Fair when you don't know the score. You don't speculate as to what happened in particular circumstance that they throw in your face. You don't frame things as he has an alcoholic personality. So Susie Wiles has two major failings with respect to this situation. Number one, she's not really MAGA. She's much more of a Bush-loving Tea Party Republican, which is why she shouldn't be in the damn position in the first place. And number two is she's not politically savvy enough to understand framing and how the media is going to basically take your words to make you sound like you're killing Trump even when you don't realize you're killing him. And that is pathetic. It's not her first rodeo. She's been doing this forever. This is a massive embarrassment brought upon by Susie Wiles being utterly incompetent. She may be great at winning at campaigning. I don't know. Look, you can't argue with her success that she had in 2024 and in 2016. And arguably, you could say even in 2020. You can't argue with her success there. That doesn't translate into someone who's a good chief of staff. And Trump might feel he owes her. And perhaps he should have given her a cushy job just because, look, if he's not there but for her, I can understand giving her a cushy job. But trusting her to be implementing these policies when she's clearly not truly MAGA and doesn't have political savvy to understand how to deal with the media. You want to know who knows how to deal with the media? Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller go out there like a freaking warrior. He waits till he knows the score before he actually weighs in. There's a famous clip from Glenn Ross, a movie that predates some of you who are watching. Kevin Spacey and Al Pacino in this scene. Al Pacino is trying to sell something to a potential customer, and Kevin Spacey comes in and throws out some useless bit of information, which just makes the buyer panic and dart out. Al Pacino comes, like, just rips him a new one. You company man, you ignorant, you company man, you never. Where's the clip? Now I gotta find it. This is totally I'm gonna get totally clipped if I play too much of this. But you don't. The point is, the rant is, how much is this going to show? I don't know how much else I can show. This is right after the guy walked out, right after the customer walked out, and basically was about to buy, and then he just like leaves. And it was Al Pacino's potential client. And Kevin Spacey had just opened his mouth and basically dropped that useless information in there, which scared the devil out of the client and made him bolt. Like, I don't know much about Al Pacino's politics, which for me, that's a good thing. I don't want to know anything about his politics. I'm afraid to know anything about his politics. I'm afraid to know anything about his politics because I'm afraid I'm going to hear something I don't like, and then I'm not going to be able to watch in the same way I can't watch Robert De Niro anymore. But I'm pausing it here really because I'm thinking if I pause, maybe I won't get dinged for this. I want to get from him the line, the way he phrases it, the way he frames it, because it's so applicable to Susie Wiles. You should see Susie Wiles' face right here instead of Kevin Spacey. One needs to tell Susie Wiles, you never open your mouth till you know what the shot is. You never open your mouth. It's that simple. You're there to help us. Al Pacino. That was great. Yeah. You never open your mouth until you know what the shot is. And she clearly doesn't know what the shot is. She's clearly too ignorant about how to deal with the media. That was just a stain, an unnecessary blundering, referring to him as an alcoholic personality, talking about how she has to talk Trump down. Oh, you're such a hero. Oh, you're such a hero. Idiot. Yeah, it doesn't seem like he has any motivation to get rid of her. There is a clip in there apparently later on some point when she's talking about, let me see if when they get to Epstein, Control F. Let's see. Anyway, yeah, no, that was an utter failure by Susie Wiles. It was terrible failure. There's just no reason for it. No reason for it at all. I do want to give you an update on Dugan and what's going on with that case. So let's do that real quick. Okay, let's see how prosecution of our favorite judge to prosecute, Judge Dugan, is going today. Good morning from Milwaukee. Day 2 of Judge Hannah Dugan's trial has just begun here in federal court on the cross-examination of FBI agent Jeffrey Baker, who arrested the undocumented immigrant over whose case Dugan presided. Let's go. Baker is one of a huge number of FBI agents reassigned to ICE, in particular enforcement and removal operations, which they call that ERO, E-R-O, enforcement removal operations. Asked whether he considered that a downgrade, Baker replied, no, I would disagree with that. Dugan's lawyer, Nicole Masnica, asked the witness about FBI surveillance on Eduardo Flores Ruiz, defendant in Dugan's courtroom. Quote, meaning that's the guy they were trying to arrest from Dugan's courtroom. Quote, we had vehicles that were at Mr. Flores Ruiz's legal location. That day it was raining. It was a lot of rain. Baker says his team saw a vehicle leave the residence. There were 5 agents in the courthouse for the arrest, but cross-exam establishes that there were other agents driving and involved in surveillance. Baker says he didn't consider them part of the arrest team. Redirect, the prosecutor asked about 2 prior arrests at the courthouse. So the reason they would be asking those questions is to basically say, you didn't have to arrest him there. You didn't have to. But I think they wanted to arrest him there because, he's not armed there. Prosecutor asked about 2 prior arrests at the courthouse. Question, at any point did you encounter a judge? No, meaning they make arrests there. No one gives a damn. The only person who gives a damn is this lunatic. They're now saying that there were 6 people on the arrest team. Prompted by the prosecutor, Baker says a larger team makes the operation safer. Next witness, FBI agent Philip Jackling. Following trends in Trump's 2.0, Jackling was reassigned from violent crimes to ICE's ERO. Some context on why multiple witnesses have been reported such reassignments. I don't care about that. Jackling on why he showed up to court on April 18th. Our plan was to arrest Ruiz after he had come to court. Jackling describes the moment he tries to arrest Flores Ruiz outside the courthouse on a very rainy April 18th. I saw Ruiz FB and he started running. Another agent ultimately apprehended Flores Ruiz. Dugan's defense displays the frozen water chat group used by the federal agents to the witness. Does the FBI recommend they use signal chat apps to discuss sensitive information about arrest? He answers, I have since learned that they do not recommend it. Ooh. One chat participant, DA agent Brian Ayers, used a profile picture of a skull over a coffee cup with the hypodermic needles as crossbones. Okay. Another unidentified participant in frozen water. Frozen water is the name of the ERO signal chat. So they had a signal chat that they labeled the group Frozen Water for ICE, obviously. Used an avatar man licking a gun. Jackling says the arrest team tried to fit in the courtroom hallway, but the defense attorney says they did a bad job. You're obviously stuck out in the hallway and people started taking pictures of you, right? Yes. Seeing the surveillance footage on the federal agents purportedly trying to fit and act normal, Dugan's attorney has it exactly right. Oh, that's very subjective by you, Adam. But okay. Jackling's testimony ends. 10-minute recess. Next witness, Joseph Zura, supervisory agent at Customs and Border Protection for more than 20 years. Spent roughly 10 years inside the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Zura was also on the arrest team for Flores Ruiz, who was charged with 3 misdemeanors. Asked whether the Department of Homeland Security authorizes the use of signal to communicate about operations, Zura replies, currently, yes. Prosecutor shows Zura's surveillance footage of Judge Dugan approaching him. She asked if I'm there for court or if I had a court appearance, Zura says. After Zura replied no, he said Dugan told him to get out or leave. Dugan gestured with a thumb over her shoulder in the tape. At any point did you hear Milwaukee County Circuit Court Chief Judge Ashley say that you cannot make an arrest in public hallway? No. All right, so now we have her telling them to leave. Obviously, this is an important witness here. Dugan's lawyer asked about Zura's security screening and the court officer's comments about after being shown CBP credentials. Initially, they said that you needed an escort, right? Yes. Dugan's lawyer notes that Zura never made any mention about what exit Flores Ruiz took in the public hallway. Okay. That's true, right? Zura ultimately agrees. Okay. During cross-exam, Zuro also conceded that Chief Judge Ashley never gave any definitive answer. This is Adam's now trying. He's trying to find anything he can to help them. Like I said, Adam is a hardcore lefty, but that doesn't mean that maybe there could be other hardcore lefties on the jury also. So this is what they're potentially seeing. During cross-exam, Zuro also conceded that Chief Judge Ashley never gave any definitive answers about whether they could be in the courthouse affecting arrest. Why would they assume they can't? Next witness, ICE deportation officer Joseph Vasconcelos. Vasconcelos, during the course of my duties, I've been shot at, I've been stabbed, I've had nerve damage in my neck from fighting with individuals targeted for arrest. Prosecutor goes through repeatedly rehashed ground, prompting the witness to say that courthouse arrests are safe because of security screening and large arrest teams enhance the safety. See how he frames this, Adam? Repeatedly rehashed ground. Maybe it is. I'm sure it is. Probably. Okay. Judge Edelman interjects, we're getting kind of repetitive here. So there you go. Judge was agreeing with Adam. Prosecutors have prompted these points from every government witness, apparently trying to sell and normalize Trump 2.0's controversial practice to the jury and public. See how he frames this? So we should have less safe apprehensions? None of this is even ultimately really important because they're not supposed to be passing judgment about whether or not they're supposed to be doing that. It's a matter of whether she is allowed to intercede and disrupt them. Let's assume that what they're doing, this is the point I want to make before I go any further here. Let's assume that defense counsel is right, that there are other ways you could have apprehended. Does that mean that she's not getting in their way? Does that mean she's not guilty? Of course she's just as guilty. Of course she's doing the same wrong. She's doing the same wrong. It's not her business how they do it. It's not her. She doesn't have any authority, or we would say jurisdiction, to be directing how they should be conducting, how Trump's team should be conducting themselves. She has no authority there. So even if there was other ways, who cares? Whether they're supposed to be using Signal or not, who cares? It's got nothing to do with what her actions are. She's not acting that way, taking those steps because she has, she's been directed to do that. So where's her jurisdiction? Where's her authority to do any of that? How's whether using Signal or WhatsApp or any other stupid communication thing, how is that relevant to her breaking the law and impeding ICE? Adam finds these to be important wins for the defense. All right, lunch recess. 12:55 p.m. Central Time. We're back from recess with more direct examination of Officer Vasconcelos. Cross begins. Dugan's lawyer highlights that the fact that the court security informed Vasconcelos that he needed an escort after the officer presented CBP credentials. Asked if there was confusion, Vasconcelos agrees that appears so. Did you communicate that information to Agent Baker? You texted him. Vasconcelos agrees. Dugan's lawyer is about to present the text sharing string as an exhibit. Admitted. Dugan's lawyer shows Vasconcelos' text message from 8:44 a.m. This is going to be a pain in the dick. Okay, 8:54 a.m. Another agent says, "Oh, that was the text message. This is going to be a pain in the dick." 8:54 a.m. Another agent says, "We're going to grab him." Question: You never showed her the administrative warrant, correct? Vasconcelos says that he was never given the opportunity to do so. Dugan's lawyer noted nothing prevented him from doing so. She looked like she was really going to take it. Next witness, Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Cristela Cervera. If as a judge you personally disagree with the law, are you free to ignore it? No. This is the circuit court judge. So this is circuit judge basically testifying that no, even if we don't like a law, we're not allowed to disregard it. Asked why Cervera replies that she's sworn to uphold the state and federal constitutions and the laws of the state of Wisconsin. Kind of like what the law says. Cervera says that arrests take place in her courtroom 2 to 3 times a week. They're doing this all the time. Shown security footage of Dugan and Cervera exiting the hallway. Prosecutor asked Cervera if she was hesitant. I was, she said. Asked why, Cervera said it was unusual to wear robes in a public hallway. No one does that. It's weird. But she was trying to display her authority. Does judicial robe signify a certain degree of formality or authority? To me, it does, and I'm sure to the public. Asked about Officer Vasconcelos' demeanor, Severa says that it was cooperative. Dugan, on the other hand, had her frustration progress into anger, Severa testifies. See, we don't get quotes about that from Adam. Where are the quotes on that, Adam? Come on, Adam. Come on, Adam. Why don't we get those quotes, Adam? Where's that? Oh, man, I wish we had someone like not so tilted for the defense in this case. I want to hear direct quotes of like, yeah, she was like steaming like a teapot. Dugan repeatedly told Vasconcelos that he needed a judicial warrant, not an administrative warrant. Were you comfortable or uncomfortable with Judge Dugan's tone? I thought she could be a bit more diplomatic at that point. Oh, there you go. Dugan could have calmed things down, Severa added. Dugan referred the officers to the chief judge's office, and Severa escorted them there. She was the other judge. This is who was testifying now, the one who was standing there. So if she's standing with the prosecution, this is very helpful for a conviction. That the one who's going out with her is basically like, she's a lunatic. She's a crazy person. Dugan referred the officers to the chief judge's office, and Severa escorted them there. There was no policy that would require you to accompany the officers to the chief judge's office. Correct. Severa said that she was shocked when she learned that there was a chase of Mr. Flores Ruiz, who was arrested out on 10th Street. So I didn't know she was going to try sneaking him out a back door there. Asked why, Severa replies, judge shouldn't be helping defendants evade arrest. That's a nice way to finish with Severa. Nice way to finish her. Basically convicting him. And that's not what she's supposed to be doing. All right, let's see how cross-exam handles this. Did you ever tell her you felt uncomfortable? No. Okay. Did you tell her you thought she was being bossy? No. What's the point? Asked if she told the officers Dugan was right about the warrants, Severa replies that she did. Severa warned her sister that ICE was coming to the courthouse. Asked whether it was coincidence that her sister had a hearing in the building the next day, Severa said that if she did, she wasn't aware of it. Court breaks early at 4:30 p.m. Central Time, just less than a dozen witnesses into the government case. Prosecutors plan to call up to 25. There you go. There you go. Severa there is a lethal witness there. That's a tough witness for the defense. That's a very tough witness for defense. What is going on with you? What? Let me catch up here. Land your plane, Joe. What is going on, Dick? Alex says Swampy Susie needs to go when Doge was going hard. Trump had largest approval rating of his term. Pam can also go put in Matt Gaetz. Put in Matt Gaetz. That's what you're trying to say. You'll never get Matt Gaetz in there. Hey man, I was born in East LA. Hey man, I was born in East LA. Yeah, you were born in East LA. All right, who's president of the United States? That's easy. That other guy, John Wayne. Local news has better coverage than this backdoor Dugan simp. I never heard her referred to as backdoor Dugan. Backdoor Dugan. Letting everything out her back door. Backdoor Dugan. I gotta remember that one. Backdoor Dugan. I like that nickname. I like that nickname a lot. All right, I think it's getting time. I think it's that time of day again, my friends. I think we hit our time. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything over here. Pinochet says, "Tell me again why you can't use AI judges. All you need is one judge giving her immigration lawyer's sister a heads up. The feds are scooping illegals to ruin the whole bunch." Yeah, this is true. This is true. I don't know why we can't have that. Hands One Pack says they had some of the highest approval ratings while Doge was going fast. Now approval's on the tank. Also, Swampy Susie needs to go along with Barbie with Barbie Bondi. There was something that Rosellian shared with me before. What was that about? Oh, this is just going back to the Ilhan Omar thing. I do want to cover this very quickly. We were talking earlier about Ilhan Omar. And while we're on the topic of Ilhan Omar, sort of, and I said that Ilhan Omar got in here legally. And Uzelian was like, Joe, keep up. Ilhan Omar lied about becoming a citizen as a minor through her father. She was 18, according to reports. A former congressional candidate in Minnesota has raised concerns about Representative Ilhan Omar's naturalization to the United States, saying that the Democrat lawmaker lied about her birth year. Speaking with Alpha News, Liz Collin, AJ Kern said that in 2019, I was looking at something about Ilhan Omar on the internet. And it occurred to me to look at her birth year. I don't know why. Or birthday. So I used an age calculator and found out that she was actually 18 in the year 2000 when her father became eligible to apply for citizenship. She claimed that she'd become a citizen at the age of 17. Ooh. Let's see what we got here.
With a federal investigation underway concerning the immigration status of Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, one woman has been publicly raising red flags for years, and she believes she knows where the trail will lead. Next.
I'm going to go through the whole 10 minutes here.
Yes. You're no stranger to politics, I know, AJ, having run for Congress yourself, but you have been raising red flags about Omar for years now. I know there's a bit of a backstory here, but walk us through what you've uncovered.
Right. Well, in 2019, I was looking at something about Ilhan Omar on the internet, and it occurred to me to look at her birth year. I don't know why, or birth date. And so I used an age calculator and found out that she was actually 18 in the year 2000 when her father became eligible to apply for citizenship. She claimed that she became a citizen at the age of 17. So when I realized she wasn't actually 17, I created a video explaining derivation of citizenship and how that works. So to me, this was like completely a red flag that I had figured out that she actually wasn't a minor when her father could apply for naturalization. So it kind of blows a hole in her story that she obtained naturalization or citizenship when she was 17. On top of that, not anyone has ever verified her citizenship, not the Minnesota Secretary of State, the FEC, or Congress itself. I then went to the Minnesota Secretary of State's office in October of 2019, I believe, and I asked questions and found out that they didn't verify her citizenship, and they actually don't.
So how do you verify their citizenship if they're foreign-born? But that's outside of our realm. There's no authorization in the statutes for us to follow, double check on people, verify their status and things like that. They sign the affidavit. That's the certification statement, and that's just the way it is right now. There is no law that requires us.
Can you imagine if we deport Ilhan Omar? Oh my God.
And in fact, we would, because there is no law telling us to do that, we would be violating the laws by checking up on people. We don't verify everybody is a citizen. We don't verify.
That would be quite the legal battle if they tried to denaturalize her. Officially declare her naturalization fraudulent and then send her home. Wow. Wow. It would be temporary. As soon as Democrats got in power, they would give her back her citizen. They would just basically insta-citizen her.
Everybody is a citizen. We don't verify everybody is a citizen.
Okay, everyone, you just heard it. When a candidate goes to file to run for an elected office,
It doesn't. Who pointed out that USCIS
the question is, what makes us think that she was not 18?
Doesn't release full records publicly. and name verifications may affect searches. But what do you say to those who doubt this story?
I believe that the whole narrative that Ilhan Omar became a citizen at the age of 17, that narrative that's documented, has been sold for so long that people have bought into it and they believe it. But where's the documentation? No one has seen her official naturalization records. No one, not the Minnesota Secretary of State.
That's something the Trump team can get their hands on pretty easily.
Not the Federal Election Commission, not Congress. And there is enough evidence now, especially in changing her birth year. I mean, who does that? Who goes to that effort of, oh, I'm in Congress now and I've just noticed that my birth year is incorrect. No, that's a red flag. And I think there is enough evidence now that Congress has a job to monitor their own, and that's what they should do. They should have initiate a congressional inquiry, just because there is enough evidence that calls into question whether she's actually a citizen, and that this is so important that we do not have a foreign nationalist, a Somali nationalist, occupying a seat in Congress, affecting laws that govern the United States of America. I think there's just enough out there that calls into question, and the fact that no one has verified her citizenship. Show me the documents.
Back in 2019, Alpha News published a 3-part series about Ilhan Omar, where we investigated how she allegedly was involved in bigamy, marrying her brother, and tax fraud, laying out plenty of evidence and documentation. Much like your findings, though, that story was completely ignored by the mainstream media. In fact, I'm aware that a local TV station had the evidence, but decided not to run the story and kept the truth from the public.
This is crazy. This is crazy. This is kind of nuts. Wow. But the real question is, I understand there's a red flag. There's a difference between a red flag and, she's changing the birth year listed on her her congressional bio, versus having evidence that she was not 18, that she was 18.
I know you've been, again, publishing all of this for years, claiming that Ilhan Omar is a foreign nationalist sitting in U.S. Congress. I'm curious, though.
Oh, and don't get me wrong. If you ask me, I personally think chances are very high that she was 18. But me thinking that individually is very different from being able to take legal action, because legal action is going to require evidence to establish that she was 18. So there's a very big difference between my personal thoughts based on the sketchiness of this woman. And when I see that she's doing sketchy things in a particular area, I agree. That's reasons for anyone who sees her and sees how fork-tongued she is and full of crap liar she is, to say, yeah, she's full of crap. But that's not a basis to denaturalize her. You need to have evidence to establish that she's actually 18. Question is how you get that evidence.
What kind of backlash have you faced for all of this? And has she disputed your findings at this point?
Well, Ilhan Omar has never disputed.
Same, brother. I'd be shocked.
Disputed anything that I have publicly shared or questioned. Never. She's never addressed it. As far as backlash, so the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, they published a report. The title of this report is the Minnesota Anti-Muslim Propaganda Mill. And they placed my photo and the photo of 4 or 5 other people, and they blacked our eyes out in these photos. And so this report was attacking us for anything we may have stated. And the
CARE is ridiculous. They're a terrible entity.
Put a target on our backs, essentially. As an American citizen, I'm outraged that my government has allowed the Muslim Brotherhood to come in under these front groups and organize, and Americans are having their free speech restricted by intimidation tactics, and it's not right.
Wow.
You know, another reason I know you've been looking into Ilhan Omar has related to your own personal story. As a teenager, you lived in Iran. Explain how that experience informed your perspective and then has propelled you forward in this, AJ.
Pastor.
Yes, my experience as a teenager in Iran has affected my view of Islam. And as a woman, as a mother, as an American, as a believer in Jesus Christ, I am 100% against Islam. And we have not been given a choice when our government is scooping up refugees, Islamic refugees, and plotting them down into our communities. We've had no voice in that.
All right. So that's not really laying into the whole specifics with Ilhan Omar, which is what I really care about. All right. Well, that was interesting. Thank you, Azillian, for sharing that. Thank you much. I think it's time for me to land my plane. I was told to land my plane by Dick Parker a long time ago. Land your plane, Joe. Wings are falling off. So, and that was ages ago. All right. I thank you all for joining me. God willing, I will be back here tomorrow evening. Until then, I urge you make sure that you stay away from that freaking lab meat. The lab meat was never meant for you. It's not going to be meant for you. There's no time in past, present, or future that you should be considering lab meat because it was never meant for you. It's meant for they, them, not you. And do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Don't touch it. I thank you all for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, etc., etc. Have a good night. And as always, Godspeed.